Now, childcare costs continue to dominate the news despite new funding announcements by the government.
Joining us to discuss childcare in Ireland is our consumer expert, Ciara Leahy. Welcome, Ciara. Ciara, we touched on childcare yesterday and the amount of texts we got in.
Massive.
This is something that bothers so many people. It's so stressful.
Yeah, and you know, and I'm of that age that childcare is a big thing in my life.
You and me both.
So when we were looking at investigative series in Irish Country Living, the Farmers Journal, I said I want to take on childcare. So we're running a 4-week series at the moment. So our first week, what we did was a questionnaire to actually see where parents are at. So we had 270 readers who are parents to answer it. And I know that there's a lot of media coverage about fees for a good reason. Fees range from €600 approximately in Leitrim to 1,100 in Dublin. Like, they are astronomical, but it's more than that. You're putting your precious baby into a childcare facility for the day. So I wanted to look at access. I wanted to look at the impact on people's careers. 76% of parents said that their careers are impacted because of lack of childcare services in this country.
Big time. I mean, it says that one of the biggest hindrances in the EU is childcare and for women going back to work again, and actually how difficult it is to go back to work. And I mean, I love the title of your thing in the Farmers Journal.
Right.
Childcare in Ireland, hard to find, harder to pay.
Absolutely.
But the government is, so we just mentioned that the government is trying to do a bit to try and ease the burden on parents.
Yes, exactly. So a big thing that came in that was announced last year in the budget was that the government are going to massively invest in childcare. And it's really, really welcome news, but it's really badly needed because we are just so far behind compared to other OECD countries. What they have committed to is that they're going to double their expenditure based on 2018 figures by 2028. So they're going from 485 million to 970. That means 221 million a year. Now, there has been some criticisms of core funding, but like, let's a balanced approach. There are some pros, okay? So one of the big pros is the fact that it's going to really focus on staff, and this is really important. So not only are they going to have an entry rate of €13 an hour, but there's a lot of focus on career progression. And this is really important because if you look at OECD countries that do really well, like Sweden and Norway, the people that are working in early childcare are as well qualified as primary school teachers.
And they're passionate about it.
Exactly.
It's something that they're doing for now.
Exactly.
This is a vocation for them. They want to do it.
Exactly. So that's going to be really important. And also it's going to mean that when staff are happier, there's going to be better staff retention, and that's really important for consistency for babies. It's going to be important for keeping baby rooms open, which I know that was a big issue in terms of COVID. So there are pros, and there's also going to be big investment in terms of the National Childcare Subsidy. Currently, it's only available for parents with children up to 3. That's going to rise to 15 in September, which is going to impact about 40,000 children. And then there's also going to be the freezing of fees for crashes that signed up to childcare. Now, I know fees are really high, but I mean, this is the first time we're actually freezing fees. So these are all good pros that are going to impact parents, but there are criticisms. And last week, outside the Dáil, there was 500 creche providers protesting about core funding. And what was interesting is it wasn't the big childcare providers, it is the small childcare providers, specifically in relation to ECI. So ECI services is, or ECHI, whichever you want to call it, is, you know, the early childhood learning, you know, your Montessori for over 3s. So it's just the allocation of funding for this ECI services is very, very confusing. And
they get 3% of the
what?
funding.
Yeah.
So
what a large provider is
facility that has over 63 children gets 174,000 a year. But for a facility with 22 children, only gets 5,000 compared to 174
for the year.
So no wonder small towns and villages, these care centres are closing and protesting.
And this is what these childcare providers were saying. They were saying, first of all, how are these being calculated? I mean, I can't do the maths, like, you know, they're getting 3% of the funding, but it's so important. These are the small services that are keeping towns and villages alive.
Absolutely.
You know, and we don't want to lose them.
Speaking of other services that are keeping towns and villages alive, Nana, your unregistered childminder, the lady down the road who's been looking after kids all her life.
Absolutely.
These people sort of seem to be completely outside of this system. They need to be brought in, don't
100%. And Grania, in our survey, this was in the comment section, this was coming through so strongly about there needs to be better recognition for childminders. 25% of those that answered our survey said they use childminders. Now, listen to this now. 25% of our readers.
But like,
absolutely, that's a quarter.
Yeah.
There's 35,000 childminders in Ireland providing care to over 80,000 children, right? That's a lot of people that are using childminders.
35,000.
35,000. But the thing is, now this is the stat that's going to blow your mind, is that only 80 of them are registered. Around 80, yes.
80.
80. Now, I think it's important to put this in perspective. It's not like that there's this underground black market of childminders operating in the country, okay?
Sounds like it.
I know. But like the majority of them are paying their tax, they're paying their insurance. There's thousands registered with Childminding Ireland, and they have to do stuff like, you know, first aid courses and garda vetting. But to be officially registered, you need to register with Tulsa, and most childminders are exempt from that, because one of the exemptions is you have to have more. Have more than 6 children, and most childminders might be minding 2 or 3. So that is the reason that
so
there's
how do we bring these people in and not scare them away?
Absolutely. So there is a national action plan for childminding that was announced last year. Now, there's not a lot of people know about this, but the intent is that by 2021, all childminders in Ireland will be registered. Now, if you're a childminder going, what do I need to do here? You don't need to do anything at the moment. It's in planning stage, because I think what's so important is they need to get this right, because if it's too of an administration burden, if there's too much that is just, you know, not cognizant of what the childminder does, it's just going to force people out of the industry. They're just not
and we're going to end up with a bigger problem than we already have.
Exactly.
Parents will want their childminders to do this so that they can avail of these schemes as well, and avail of some of the funding that the government is giving out.
And that is going to incentivise childminders to get on board, because at the moment, I was talking to a childminder who said parents don't even ask about the National Childcare Subsidy. There's so little child providers, they don't even think it's an option, really. But more and more childminders that are going to get registered, the more that parents are going to seek out childminders that can give them that subsidy.
I have to say, my 2 kids are in creche, and it's the best money you can spend, but it is
a lot of money.
Extortionate prices. And the one
Absolutely.
thing that I find is the turnover in teachers, because the
turnover in
carers.
staff, yes.
Because, you know, my daughter loved this one particular, and then she moved on to become a childminder because she was getting more money. And, you know, I can understand. So the retention is a huge thing.
And that's the reason why some families go for childminders. Like, it's not just, oh, I can't get a creche place, I'll go for a childminder. People want that consistency with one person that provides that loving care.
So important for children.
Yeah, I have my child is with a childminder. She is the best person, you know, and provides so much love and attention and care to my child, and you can't put a price on that.
Oh yeah,
you really
they're worth their weight in gold, these people.
And
Ciara,
once you can go back to work, and that's a huge thing as well for people to
I
get
have
their
to say,
independence
since
back.
the moment I went back to work and my child skips into my childminders every morning, I don't worry.
Yeah, and you're a nicer person as well. I always find that when the child goes back, Mammy's much happier as well.
I used to take my daughter, cling her hand over.